So here's a true story. When my boys were younger, I used to coach them in football. And we used to have what we called a simple draft where the kids would work out and then we sat in like a little war room and the coaches would draft the kids and pick which kids. Toward the end, you usually got those kids that were slow or weren't as strong or weren't as knowledgeable of football. One year I picked a kid, I said, we might as well pick him. And I picked a kid, he was the slowest in the camp and his football knowledge was real bad. So I put him on our team and I told the offensive coach, I said, well, maybe we can use him as a receiver and that way he can be a decoy receiver. We don't run to his side, but the safety and the secondary has to go with him for the plays. And if push comes to shove, it's a pass play, he's open, you throw it to him. If he catches it, it's good. If he doesn't, it's okay. The offensive coach says, no, I'm not going to put him on my offense. He said, you find a place for him, you picked him. And Marine Corps taught us that no matter what, always be in a position to win. Put somebody in a position to win. I couldn't put him at defensive back because he was extremely slow and he didn't have the knowledge about football. I couldn't put him in as a linebacker because I knew they would run at him. And a running back with a full head of steam running his way, he'd just get blown out of the set. So I went to his father and I said, I'm going to try something. I'm going to take your son and I would like to make him defensive tackle, nose tackle. The father goes, I don't know, he's kind of light. I said, listen, he's young, he's going to fall. They're going to knock him down. But what I told him is, when they knock you down, you grab all the feet you can. You just reach around and you grab them all. His father said, okay, I'll give it a shot. We put him in there. The first play, of course, they knock him off the line. He's down there trying to grab the feet. He gets up. I say, you okay? He says he's fine. Second play, he trips the running back up behind the line of scrimmage. By the fourth play, he has an assist on a sack. By the seventh play, he has a full sack. And every time he did that, his teammates rallied around him. He was confident. He felt good about himself. And no matter what happened, that young man stood there and he knew to grab all the feet, no matter how bad they knocked him down. He kept struggling and struggling until he achieved what he had to do. Remember that. When you're down, you're not out. It's just how you look at it. When you're down, you grab all the feet you can until you can get yourself back up again. So welcome to another episode of Ask a Black Dad. Today we're not going to answer a question, but I've been seeing some things on social media sites with the election coming up in less than 100 days where people are saying, I'm not voting. I don't think I should vote. I'm too awoke to vote. And that made me say, are you crazy? The problem with that is that your ignorance becomes their power. And if it didn't matter about you voting, why are they so against you voting? Take example first of the history of voting. When America first started, you had to be a landowner to vote. That's right, you had to own land. If you didn't own land, you could not vote. Then they changed it and they allowed every white male to vote as long as they weren't Catholic, Jewish, maybe even Irish. Then they changed it again and allowed all white men to vote. But they excluded women and of course minorities and people of color. Then they changed it again. After the Civil War, they said blacks could vote. But then all the states start making these little extra side laws. You have to be able to read this. You have to have so much money to vote. Then they gave the right to the women to vote. Women who died, who were beaten and tortured to vote. Then finally, the blacks had got the right to vote, which allowed for, of course, Hispanics and the Chinese to be able to vote. But let's look at what they've done just to be able to vote. Women had to die for you to be able to vote. So when a woman sits there and says, I'm not voting, remember they used to torture and beat women when all the woman said was, I want the right to vote. Now, when they used to do the blacks, when we were asking people to register to vote in the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s, they used to hang them from trees and burn them while they were alive. If they found out that you were even going around registering people to vote, they would chop fingers off. They would break their hands. That was a warning. Sometimes they broke your hands, chopped your fingers off, and still hung you. And of course, while you're hanging and still alive, they would burn you. And people tell me to this day, I'm not voting because my third eye is awoke. I say, close your third eye and open the two eyes God gave you and read a little bit about history and what people have gone through just to get you to this point. Think about it like this. When a young man is 18 years old, he has to register for the select service. That means if there's a war and we need a draft, they can call him in and he has to be willing to die for his country. But yet and still, when he's 18, they don't automatically register him to vote. Why is that? You're automatically given the ability to go die for the country, but not the ability to vote. Think of it like this. You have certain amendments that are given to you by the Constitution and the amendments. First Amendment, you have freedom of speech. But if you decide not to talk, decide not to write, you never lose that freedom. You will always have it. You have the right to bear arms. Even if you do not want to carry a gun, buy a gun, use a gun, you have that right to do so. And as long as you don't become a felon, that right is never taken away from you. You can go your whole life and not own a gun. You can go your whole life and not say anything. But why is it now that when you register to vote, they say if you don't use that vote in 2 years, they have the right to take that from you? If it didn't matter, why are they trying to take it from you? If it didn't count, why are they passing laws? Why are they cutting up the districts to make sure that your vote is null and void as best as they can? I heard people say this. They say Black Lives Matter. They say, I care about police brutality, police reform. I care about my school systems. But yet you don't vote. Don't you understand when you see a cop that's abusive, that maybe has overstepped his boundaries in the line, it's up to the prosecutor. It's up to the chief of police to ask the prosecutor to maybe file charges. But you don't vote for the prosecutor. You sit at home. You sit on your face. And then you say, well, I care. You don't care. Because if you cared, you'd vote for the judges that are going to be fair and honest. You'd vote for the prosecutors that are going to be fair and honest. You'd vote for the mayor that's going to make sure the police chief is not only just looking out for the police, but also for those the police serve. Don't tell me I only vote for presidencies. When the year of the president's election comes up, that's when I vote. That's because you're not thinking. Do you know most laws that affect you are done in your local, state level? That's where it starts at. Your tax dollars are going to be seen there. So don't say I only vote for the president or I don't vote. Change the way you're thinking. People have died so that you can do this. I was working on a campaign in 2007. Me and my brother drove to a gas station in the west side of Cleveland. At that time, I would always keep voter registration cards. I saw 3 young black males. They were hanging around, have just bought some beer. So I went up to them and asked them, are you guys registered to vote? The big mouth started talking to me about, well, you know, I believe like Malcolm. I said, Malcolm X? Yeah. And he started telling me all the reasons why he does not vote. I said, you know, Malcolm X had a speech talking about the bullet or the ballot. He never said, I'm just going to go with a bullet. He said, you have to give me the bullet or the ballot. So that means you have to vote. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't get his brains blown out, didn't get beat for you to sit around and become complacent with what's happening now. Get off your butt. Register to vote. Vote. Progress is not overnight. The race isn't always won by the fastest or the strongest. It's won by the person and the people that keep on fighting and keep on striving to get to the goal. Keep your eyes on the prize. Fannie Lou Hamer once said that when she was registering people to vote, demanding that she be given the right to vote, they used to take her and arrest her and lock her in a jail cell. They would go to the penitentiary and get some of the biggest black inmates out and take them in the cell with her, and they would beat her. She said one time she had one of the biggest inmates just start beating her because the sheriff's department had told him to. She thought she was going to die. But she was okay with that, knowing that she was there to make a change, make a difference. You're standing on the shoulders of people who've given it everything they had, the ultimate sacrifice for you to have that ability and that right to vote. Get off your ass and vote. You're going to put in a judge that's going to change the way he sees criminal reform. You're going to change that prosecutor so when those kids are abused and beaten and shot for no reason, he's going to bring charges. You're going to put a school board in that's going to take its time and make sure that the kids receive everything they have and they need to be better in life. But that doesn't happen if you don't get out there and vote. Exercise that which they want to take away from you. George Washington Carver said, 99% of failure comes from people who have the ability and the habit of making excuses. Stop making an excuse. Stop making an excuse of why you won't exercise that right. People have died for you to have it. Use it. Remember to subscribe, comment, like, and follow us on all social media platforms. And until I see you in 2 weeks, remember to get out there and register to vote. When the time comes, vote. And remember, I love you.